Hello everyone. Today I have an interview with Mr. Karan Gupta, graduated from the University of Cambridge, regarding my choice of becoming an engineer from the University of Cambridge or Oxford University. Firstly, thanking you again for accepting request of the interview. So my purpose of this interview is to gain as much information from you that can guide my way to become a Cambridge or Oxford engineer. So, what do you think of my choice to become a Cambridge or an Oxford engineer?
Great. So, hi, Karsh. Thanks again for trying to interview me and talking to me about your choices and what it's like once you've done engineering at Oxford or Cambridge. So, the first thing I'd say about your decision to make to become an engineer at Oxford or Cambridge is, I think it's a tough but very fulfilling path that you've chosen. So the course itself is going to be challenging and nothing like you've faced in school before at all. For example, you wouldn't be able to just cram a textbook and answer questions at all. You wouldn't be able to do past papers and know exactly what's going to happen in questions coming ahead. It's more of applying yourself in various ways. That's the challenge you'll be facing at Cambridge or Oxford. And this is something that's probably true across all the high level universities, whether it's in India in an IIT or a high rated university like MIT or Stanford or any of the University of California's in the US. So in terms of from an engineering perspective, I think you're going to be challenged and learn a lot in a lot of the higher quality, education, higher education locations or universities that you might pick. So from the engineering perspective, I think it's a very good choice and it's a very challenging choice. In terms of the the life outside of engineering, again, I personally enjoyed my life in Cambridge a lot because it was a university town. You get involved in a lot of things outside of your education, and depending on what you're looking for from university, for me, is very important to have a life outside of engineering as well, because that's a very important part of university. It's not just what you do educationally; it's what you do beyond that, and how you develop as a person beyond that. That'll improve you in the future and give you experiences that you can't get outside of university. That's the importance. So for me, that Cambridge was great for that as well.
That's a really innovative answer, sir. I just wanted to ask that is IIT really good in India? Because from my perspective, it's not.
And what about it do you find not good?
Like there is no practical knowledge in IIT. We just need to give an exam, which is JEE mains. They don't even demand for board exam results. That's why.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if those are necessarily negative things. So from my again, I haven't gone to IIT, so my perception is just what people I've spoken to have told me, or people who have gone to IIT have told me. So firstly, in terms of the examination, my understanding was that the board exams aren't challenging enough. So they set a more challenging curriculum to make sure that the people they're taking, have a very equal examination so they can compare like for like against many candidates, and B, they're challenged more than the standard board exams might challenge you. Then the quality of education itself and practicality, again, from what I heard, if by practicality you mean more applied engineering, like doing projects or doing things in physically in person, I've heard they do a lot of that. And Cambridge, in fact, is one of the universities that does less practical work and more theoretical work um, than other universities might, especially in the first 2 years. It's very heavily theoretical, and you learn a lot in a very short period of time. It's not as hands-on as many universities might be.
That's a new thing which I got to know. So let's move on to the next question. How does one plan to become an engineer from the school life itself?
So there are two or three things that are the challenge here. Firstly, I don't think people should try and plan and become an engineer in the first place. you're meant to look for things that you enjoy and you're good at. And if that happens to be engineering, then that's what's calling you. It's not a case of, hey, my dad told me to be an engineer, I'm going to be an engineer, because you're not going to enjoy and be happy after that. You'll more than likely end up doing engineering, go do an MBA and sit in business instead of being an engineer itself. So I'd say you need to understand what you're good at and what you enjoy, more importantly than deciding a field that someone's told you to do. But if you figure out that you actually enjoy engineering, then it's a case of you try to pursue it. And for that, there are two things you need. One is the right subjects that you're excelling in and you're enjoying. These are likely to do with physics or maths, and well, for general engineering, physics, maths, depending on how you specialize, maybe chemistry or biology, because you can get very many different types of engineering. And within that, also within maths, you pick different modules, especially in your A levels, and more mechanically oriented modules. Again, for the kind of engineering which I did, which was mechanical and then specializing in manufacturing. But actually, it wasn't quite mechanical. I'd applied for mechanical to most universities, but in Cambridge, as I mentioned, we start off 2 years doing a general engineering degree. So it's everything, not just mechanical. So that was the first thing. It's the subjects that you're picking. And then the second thing is what you're doing outside of your education that's engineering related. So are you taking on projects that, school hasn't set for you, but are very interesting in engineering perspectives? Like, I went to my dad's factory and I tried to understand what's happening. I applied my engineering to change some of the systems. So, you need to do a lot of things beyond school life itself, but during school, years, if you may, to develop your engineering experience. And I think these are two important things.
Is there computer or software engineering in Cambridge University?
Yeah, there is. So as I said, the first years are common, and then you specialize after that. Computer is one of them. So computer science or computer engineering is one of them. But Cambridge does have computer science as a degree, which is not engineering related at all, but it's more, it's more specific to computer science. For example, using big data or using new methods of handling data and finding solutions, whether it could be through AI or machine learning. Those kind of things will be more computer science, and for that, it's a more maths heavy degree. So it's very little physics. It's very little mechanics. It's a lot of maths.
Okay. So my next question is it a fulfilling profession? In what ways do you enjoy being a Cambridge engineer?
Okay. So in fact, my actual profession is not engineering at all now. So I've diverted from the core engineering route. So initially, again, I mentioned the first years is common engineering, then you specialize. I specialized in something called manufacturing engineering. So this is a degree that's quite unique to Cambridge. I think there are only one or two other universities in the UK that offer it. But the specialization means that you understand manufacturing processes from start to finish. So this means from designing products, which is very engineering heavy, making sure that products work the right way, making sure that they're mechanically or structurally optimized, to selecting the right materials. And this goes through to the process of manufacturing, how to set up a manufacturing line, how to run a business, how to understand the people in the business. So I did some modules in psychology, I did some modules in accounts. So it's a very varied background that teaches you everything about manufacturing from design to supply all the way through. And I then realized that my degree lends itself really well to consulting, which is going into different companies for a few weeks or maybe months and helping them optimize their manufacturing, again, from design to delivery, like throughout the chain. So my specialization then went into consulting, which was operational and now strategic consulting. So helping companies make decisions on which way to progress or which way to proceed. And in terms of fulfilling, so again, this comes back to what you enjoy and what you're good at. So if you're doing something you enjoy and you're good at it, you'll find it fulfilling. I don't see how you can't. But if you're struggling either of these two areas, it's going to be more challenging and you might not feel as fulfilled. In terms of making a difference to a wider audience, consulting does that because I'm changing the way a company might look in the future. It could change whether a company survives or fails. So any role in any job can be fulfilling depending on how you apply yourself.
That was a professional and thinking answer.
Sorry, can you repeat yourself?
That was a professional and thinking answer.
Sure.
My next question is, what are the essential exams to attempt in order to become a Cambridge or Oxford engineer? Are there any scholarships provided by the universities?
Yep. So again, I joined 7 years ago, and at that time it was just my IGCSEs, and on top of that, in Trinity College, Cambridge, which is the college I went to, we had an in-person examination followed by an interview with someone who went through your examination and or test answers with you and guided you or helped you to get some of the answers. So for this first interview, what they're looking at is how well you respond to the input they give you and how you can problem solve on the spot with some input. And then the second interview is more personality based and talking about your experiences. And then again, there were some engineering questions in that, but is more broader based. So in terms of additional exams, that was it. Then the second part to your question, which was scholarships. Yep. So scholarships again, it depends college to college within a university as well. So Trinity College has different scholarships than other colleges. So there are a lot of different scholarships that you can get. For me, the ones I got were trying to remember what it was called. Yeah, so one of them was called the Cambridge Commonwealth Scholarship, which is offered to people joining from Commonwealth countries, and that will be available in India as well, because I joined from Kenya, and they part subsidize your education. Then the second was from the college itself, so the Trinity College Bursary, which again does something similar based on your background. So they look at your family income level, and it's sort of a means tested scholarship.
So, do the universities provide any scholarship on basis of how many A stars you got in AS and A levels?
No, because everyone coming is brilliant. So everyone coming will have the similar number of A stars and A's. So that's not a distinguishing factor usually. Maybe if you've done something extremely great outside of work education, then perhaps they might consider something. But your raw grade result is, you're competing against the best in the world. So everyone will have really high results.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I don't know if it's still running, but when I was in Cambridge, there was a Jawaharlal Nehru scholarship for Indian citizens themselves. So again, if you do get that, which I think pretty much everyone who joined from India, which were 45 people a year, used to get it. And that fully subsidizes your entire education and gives you some stipend as well, including flights to and back from India. So I don't know if that's still running, but you can look at it.
So that is only for Indian citizens.
It is. It's by the government. So the Jawaharlal Nehru scholarship.
Okay. Which subject should I choose in my IGCSEs and A levels? You've already
Yes.
told me about IGCSEs, I remember. But can we have that talk one more time?
Yeah, of
As
course. So
I have
as
to show
I
that in the interview.
mentioned in the call today earlier, the key subjects are maths and physics for mechanical, and then based on what you're specializing in, you need some more sciences, so chemistry or biology, and along with some arts as well. So you have a mixed background and mixed experience because, as I told you, in my degree, I did psychology, I did economics and accounting at university. So you need to have some experience in these before because it does help and provide a more complete or well-rounded CV. So a well-rounded CV is quite important in the UK and US, which perhaps it's not in IIT. Maybe in IIT they purely look at grades and nothing else. I don't know, but perhaps that's the impression I get right now. So having a full rounded background with maths and science is the most important thing. Same thing goes for A levels. So in A levels, I did 5 subjects, which were maths, physics, chemistry, and economics. And again, so that seemed like a good mix for me to join, and it seems quite similar to what other people in Cambridge did as well.
In AS levels, we have to choose maximum of 5 subjects, right?
It's up to you. You can pick as many. So my school offered 4.5, and I did half of it by myself, so just using the textbooks. So it's up to you how many you want to do.
Okay.
I know people who did 8. So you can do from, I think, 3 to 8. That's your range.
Okay. Yeah. So, what steps after school did you take so that you became a Cambridge engineer? Like, what is the applying process in UK and US universities?
Sure. So I applied to both US and UK universities. The UK process is quite simple. You submit a UCAS form, which is UCAS, the spelling, and it lets you apply to 5 universities of your choice. So within this, you're allowed to apply to either Cambridge or Oxford, not both of them. So one of the two, followed by 4 other universities of your choice. The way I chose it was I chose 4 pretty high level universities in the UK and then one sort of moderate level university from which I thought I'd get admission to more easily. So that's how I selected the 5 which I applied to. And for that, you just supply a CV and I think that was it. I don't think there's a cover letter, but Cambridge had a separate cover letter. But for the other universities, it was just a CV. But again, this could have changed in the last 7 years. For the US itself, each individual university generally had a separate application. There was something called the common university application or something, common board maybe, something along those lines, which let you apply to a few universities that were affiliated with it. But again, even within that, each university required a separate cover letter or note of some sort. So that's a per university application really.
In US universities, we can give SAT, right, to achieve scholarship.
Yeah, so you have, from what I understood, if you don't do AP, you need to do SATs or SAT as you call them. So standard assessment tests, and the 2 types. There's the general SATs and the subject specialized ACTs. In my time, they're called SAT 1 and SAT 2. So those are generally quite, at least from Kenya, they were compulsory to do. So I did them as well. And the subjects SATs were quite simple and straightforward, but for the SAT ones, because the subject is lined quite well with the English system anyways, so there wasn't too much additional work. But the SAT one was very specialized and you had to do a lot of preparation work for it.
I just wanted to ask that if we do first language English in IGCSEs and A levels, so do we get direct entry in universities without giving any English assessment or anything?
Yeah, that's right. So if you've done English as a first language, you don't need to do any additional English tests.
Okay.
Except,
Yeah.
of course, in the SATs, which have an English component in SAT 1. So it's totally different. But in the UK, you're fine.
Okay. And my board is also UK IGCSE, so that's a benefit. So my next question is, which country is better for engineering, USA or UK?
Again, I don't think this question is simple because it's not a better UK or better US. It's a better university by university and degree by degree and what you're looking for from this education. So you you need to figure out and look at it comparing university by university. It's not a UK or US. Generally, I can give you some indication. The UK, from what I've heard, is more structured, whereas the US is a bit more like a startup. At least these are comparing MIT to Cambridge. That's it, because that's the conversation I've had with people in MIT who did an exchange program with the UK. So in MIT, you get to do a lot more hands-on things outside of university, starting your own companies kind of thing, or exploring your own projects. Whereas in the UK, it's a lot more structured. We're 9 to 5 hours in the university doing education-related stuff.
So MIT is best in USA.
Again, you can't qualify best by just saying what's best. You need to be more specific as to best for X, Y, Z. And then perhaps we can have an indication on that. But of course, overall, if you go to ratings, which I'm sure you have, MIT comes generally in the top, followed by something like Stanford or UC Berkeley, Caltech. These are the names that keep popping up, or at least popped up before. But you need to figure out best by what metric. You can't just say a best.
Okay, like if I ask this question in terms of Cambridge and Oxford in engineering, which is better, Oxford or
Again,
Cambridge?
so ratings wise, definitely Cambridge is better. Generally, the ratings go for most engineering degrees Cambridge, Imperial, and then Oxford, or even sometimes different universities do appear on that list. So whereas for engineering and sciences, Cambridge tends to be better. For arts and economics or politics, Oxford tends to be better, or rated at least.
Okay, because I saw rankings in a website. In that website, at number one, it was Harvard, and then at number two, it was Oxford in
So number
engineering.
one was
Harvard University in USA.
Harvard. Okay, overall. Uh, Again, it depends on metrics, depends on how these tests were done. So often people, I have no idea what rankings these are. You need to look how they were made, whether they asked 10 students from each university, how much do you like it, and just use those as answers, or whether it's based on number of papers published or what. But generally, if you look country by country, that's better than the global ranking system because they go into more depth. So for the UK, if you go to something like the Times Education Ranking, or there are 2 or 3 more university ranking systems. But if you go country by country, I'd suggest that's better.
Okay. So now my third last question. What are the admission requirements for both the universities, Cambridge and Oxford?
Um, Again, we've already discussed what subjects you need to do. So you need to do those. You need to have extracurricular activities. So this is both from extracurricular within engineering to extracurricular just generally. You need to show them that you excel outside of your core education. For example, it could be sports, it could be various school activities or clubs. You need to do things that are not just education. So that's a general requirement across the UK and US. You need to be a more rounded person.
Is there any admission requirement like you need these many A stars or something?
Yeah, so they would generally, once you've got your, okay, you apply to the universities generally in your S level, or you have your S level result by the time you get called for the interviews at Cambridge. And with that, they would interview you, and if they like you, they'll tell you that you have a conditional offer based on getting these results. For Cambridge, those results are usually 2 A stars and 1 A. For other universities, it might be 3 A's or 1 A star and 2 A's.
Okay.
And in that, they specify 2 A stars and 1 A in maths, physics, and one of the subject,
Okay.
or maths and chemistry in one of the subjects. So
But we should take further mathematics also, right? As
I
you
would say
told
so.
me.
It definitely helped me, but there are people in my university or my college who didn't. But it's definitely an advantage.
So my next question is, how does the one settle in the UK if we get a job there?
Uh, Again, this is an open-ended question, which I think you need to be a bit more specific. But in terms of settling, again, it depends on person to person. So, are you happy being away from home? Are you happy um, being self-sustenant? You're not going to have people doing cooking and cleaning for you. You're going to have to do all this yourself. So you need to be aware about handling yourself or your life with less help in a more unfamiliar environment.
What is the citizenship process there?
So you need to work for 5 years on the work visa without breaks in between to become a permanent resident. After which, if you continue working for 1 year, or sorry, if you stay in the UK for 1 year after that, then you get your citizenship.
Okay. And the last question, in which company are you doing your job?
Yeah, it's a strategic consultancy called Advancy. That's ADVANCY, and we're a French or Paris-based consultancy, which is now expanding across the globe, including London, which opened about 4 years ago. And in London itself, we're now 16 consultants, and we're growing at a rate of 1.5 times each year. So it's quite a high growth rate in terms of both revenue and number of consultants.
Okay. So, by this question, we end our interview. Thanking you once more for this interview. This really helped me a lot. This means a lot to me.
You're more than welcome.
So, if you want to leave, you can. Goodbye. We'll
All right.
meet.
Thanks a lot, Karsh, and hope you have a good day. Let me know if you have any more questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.